My friends, the Third World War has already begun. And if you're wondering how this story unfolds, if you're looking at the mud of the frozen trenches in Eastern Europe or the dust from explosions in the Middle East, you're looking at the floor below. The final battle, the one that will determine the survival of the West, won't be decided on the ground. It has just been transferred to the vacuum in the absolute and freezing silence of Earth's orbit. Now, imagine the raw and tangible scene. Feel the vibration through the ground at a military base carved into the mountains of Iran. Smoke rises, the alarm sounds, and a ballistic missile takes off with an eardrum-shattering roar. Until yesterday, that missile would tear through the atmosphere, and the American defense would have a terrifyingly short window of just a few minutes to react. Depending on the luck of having a vulnerable radar plane orbiting that exact region at the exact moment. But now, the physics of combat has changed. Even before the booster flame reaches its maximum temperature and the missile fully leaves the launch tube, it has already been lit up, plotted, and locked onto by an invisible mesh in space. The sky is no longer a hiding place. And what the Pentagon is installing over the Earth, under cover of the defense budget, is an all-seeing eye. The eye of God. And pay attention to the unchanging rule of this new game. When you force your enemy to fight under the all-seeing eye, no piece on the board moves without being seen, tracked, and mapped in real time. Welcome to War in Space. Because we are in the middle of a civilizational war, and what the mainstream media insists on calling isolated conflicts is in fact a single mechanism. Because on the left side, we have the brutal alliance that forms the new axis of evil: China, Russia, Iran, and North Korea. And Reedy Globo is not going to talk about this. But they are not just countries signing trade agreements. They have become a living organism, exchanging military technology, military intelligence, and blood on the battlefield. Look at how coordinated this axis is. Let's talk about the role of North Korea. A miserable country, which can't even feed its own population in peacetime, has become the main logistical conveyor belt for the Russian war machine. The escalation by Pyongyang is frightening. They're not just sending boxes of low-caliber artillery ammunition to the front lines. They've raised the level of lethality, now supplying heavy ballistic missiles that will destroy Ukrainian infrastructure. And the integration goes beyond weapons. The North Korean regime has dispatched a force of 30,000 men, 30,000 infantry soldiers to act as cannon fodder directly in the meat grinder of the Russian front. And then comes China, the hungry dragon operating at full speed in the gray zone, sending dual-use technology, military-grade precision microchips, and electronic components, vital for Moscow's war machine, and buys billions of dollars in sanctioned Russian oil at below-market prices. It's Chinese money that finances Vladimir Putin's war and at the same time fuels Beijing's own war industry. And on the other side of the web, Russia pays Iran by sending aerospace technology and advanced technical support for the construction of Shahed drones, weapons that Tehran uses to attack American bases and block global trade in the Red Sea. And Iran, closing the cycle, receives clandestine shipments from the North Koreans and sells its oil to Chinese refineries. For this axis, Western democracies are not just geopolitical rivals. We are definitely an existential threat. The West is fighting two kinetic wars simultaneously: Israel and the United States against the militias in the Middle East and Iran, and Ukraine, backed by billions of dollars from NATO, against the Russian juggernaut. And meanwhile, Japan, Australia, the Philippines, and the island of Taiwan are arming themselves to the teeth, setting the stage to face the Chinese dragon in the Pacific. My friends, we have never been this close to civilizational collapse since the height of the missile crisis during the Cold War. And to orchestrate this global defense, the United States has always relied on its angels in the sky. And here we need to get into the anatomy of these exceptional machines. To monitor enemy advances, NATO uses the gigantic E-3 Sentry planes, the AWACS, and the brand new E-7 Wedgetail. don't think of these machines as obsolete aircraft. They are, to this day, the absolute pinnacle of atmospheric radar engineering. Imagine being inside the fuselage of an E-3 Sentry, a massive modified Boeing 707, flying at over 10,000 meters altitude and 850 kilometers per hour. The internal lighting is dim. The screens cast a green and blue glow over the faces of more than 20 combat officers, electronic warfare specialists, and air controllers. The smell of cold coffee and the radio aesthetic dominate the environment. Outside, on the back of the aircraft, a monumental radar disc more than 9 meters in diameter spins. This aircraft is not just a sensor. It's a complete flying command post. The crew inside intercepts enemy communications, calculates routes, vectors entire squadrons of F-35 fighters, and orchestrates the theater of war in real time. They are the tactical brain of the battlefield. But look at the level of the logistical and strategic problem. These aircraft are ultra-high-tech relics. They are extremely rare, cost billions of dollars each, require insane maintenance, and take years, not months, to be built, assembled, and integrated into the nervous system of the United States Air Force. And above all, they suffer from the biological and physical vulnerabilities of our reality. The plane needs kerosene. It has limited endurance. The crew, no matter how well trained, needs to sleep, eat, and rest. They can't stay in the air forever. And it's on this physical weakness that China and Russia have focused their efforts. The Axis of Evil developed the brutal Anti-Access Area Denial Zones, or A2AD. They created long-range missiles designed with a single lethal purpose: to hunt, lock onto, and destroy AWACS aircraft. Because they know that if you take down the flying radar, you blind the entire American fleet in the Pacific. A single hypersonic missile crossing the skies at over 10,000 kilometers per hour can turn a priceless multi-billion-dollar target into a fireball, with debris falling into the ocean. Or worse, a drone costing only $20,000 can hit an aircraft that may be parked at a base in the Middle East. The Axis of Evil learned to bleed the West by blinding it, and the United States needed a solution immune to anti-aircraft missiles. They needed eyes that don't require aviation kerosene, that don't sleep, and that can't be reached by Chinese, Russian, and Iranian air defense systems. They needed the all-seeing eye. And that's why May 29, 2026, mark this date, went down in secret military history. The United States Space Force signed a monumental $4.16 billion contract. Not with an old military contractor bogged down by Washington's bureaucracy, but with Elon Musk's SpaceX. I repeat, with Elon Musk's SpaceX. The goal of this billion-dollar deal? Well, to accelerate and deploy a revolutionary constellation called SPAMT, a space-based moving air target indicator. This is serious and forces the rewriting of war manuals. SPAMT isn't that outdated Cold War technology where you take a picture by satellite, wait for the satellite to orbit the Earth, send the delayed data, and hope the analyst figures out where the troops were. No. SPAMT is an overlapping mesh of thermal, optical, and radar sensors that continuously, persistently, and in real time tracks any object moving in global airspace. And when the Pentagon aligns SPAMT with the intelligence already collected by the formidable E-3 and E-7 aircraft, the network becomes impenetrable. The Air Force will continue using its radar aircraft as flexible and local command centers. But if these planes are forced to retreat due to the hypersonic missile threat, the all-seeing eye in space instantly takes over surveillance without losing a millisecond of data. And this brings us to the big question of fifth-generation warfare: invisibility. We need to be very realistic and down to earth now. The mainstream media likes to use easy headlines, claiming that stealth is dead for good. The truth on the battlefield is much more complex and brutal. The stealth technology that cost Beijing and Moscow trillions of dollars to develop their new generation fighters doesn't just disappear like magic, but it has suffered its most devastating blow. The game has turned against the autocrats. For example, the Chinese J-20 stealth fighter or the Russian bomber. They may even have a faceted design to deflect and deceive the radar waves of conventional anti-aircraft batteries on the ground. But when they operate under the all-seeing eye of the United States, the math is cruel. Satellites don't just look for radio waves. They look for the physical signatures that can't be hidden. The extreme heat from the engine exhaust crossing the freezing air at 10,000 meters altitude signs the aircraft's death warrant. The network's artificial intelligence cross-references this thermal anomaly with the air distortion and sends the exact coordinates directly to the targeting system of the American interceptors. The axis is not permanently blinded, but now they will have to spend unimaginable fortunes just to try to hide again in a theater of war where night has been turned into day. SpaceX is no longer a Martian exploration company. It has become the true nervous system of Western defense. Do you want undeniable and lethal proof of that? Look at the mud in the trenches of Ukraine. Russia had some of the most advanced electronic warfare equipment in the world, capable of causing heavy radio interference and knocking out the GPS signals that guided Ukrainian weapons. Putin's order was to deafen the resistance. And then Elon Musk and the Starlink satellite network came in. Ukraine began operating its swarms of kamikaze drones guided by broadband signals transmitted directly from space, shielded against interference from Russian towers. And with Musk's internet, Kyiv's drones went back to tearing through enemy lines, finding openings and pulverizing Russian armored vehicles with mathematical precision without losing the HD video signal. Russia, feeling the blow, tried to play the same game. Putin's army began using smuggled Starlink terminals, obtained on the black market, to stabilize communication for their own assault squads and guide their drones against Ukraine. What did Elon Musk do when they discovered the move? He cut off the gravy train at the source. SpaceX's engineering team tracked, mapped the geolocations, and surgically disabled the terminals that were operating under the control of the Russian invasion forces. My friends, Vladimir Putin even declared war on SpaceX and threatened an attack in space against the satellites. With a simple push of a button in California, a civilian company changed the tactical balance in Eastern Europe, silencing the enemy front. This is the real geopolitical power of the 21st century, and it's this architecture, turned into a covert military power, that's dragging the most loyal allies out of the atmosphere. Defense against the axis of evil is no longer ballistic, it's orbital. Israel, fully aware that physical borders and systems like the traditional Iron Dome are under extreme stress. Faced with barrages of thousands of Iranian missiles, it is already openly studying the development of its own independent network of military defense satellites. The agencies are discussing massive capabilities, including laser attacks directly from space, striking down enemy rockets while they are still in the ascent phase over Persian territory. Now, connect this to the newly revealed plans of Donald Trump and his monumental Golden Dome project. The American Golden Dome is designed to be the impenetrable anti-missile shield that will cover the entire United States. It's only scientifically feasible if its tracking system is operated and powered by continuous intelligence from space. My friends, space is no longer the romantic frontier of scientific exploration. Wake up to the harsh reality. Space is officially the ultimate high ground where the fate of human civilization will be decided in the coming decades. And that permanently shifts the balance of diplomatic, economic, and military power. The survival of the dictatorships in Moscow, Beijing, Pyongyang, and Tehran has historically relied on two non-negotiable pillars: keeping their own people in the dark through absolute oppression and the ability to launch brutal attacks and surprise moves against democracies. But when the West switches on and deploys the all-seeing eye, these dictatorships lose their fundamental tool of surprise. China's ability to move its amphibious fleet to strangle Taiwan in the dark, or Russia's ability to reposition its tactical nuclear warheads by rail under cover of fog, runs up against relentless 24-hour scrutiny. And if you've seen the whole board, if you've understood that Western technology is stealing the main war oxygen from the totalitarian regimes of our time, this is the exact moment for you to leave your signature. Head to the comments section now and show the algorithm that our elite community reads the facts before they turn into tragedy. And now type today's final verdict. Star Wars, the all-seeing eye. I repeat, Star Wars and the all-seeing eye. My friends, 2026 will be remembered not as the year the war ended, but as the year technological asymmetry was cemented in favor of freedom. The signing of this multi-billion-dollar contract consolidates the integration between Elon Musk's free market genius and the brute military force of the Pentagon. The axis of evil believed that by using firepower, disposable human flesh in the trenches, and alliances of convenience, they could exhaust the resilience of the West. And our response was to redraw the boundaries of combat. Against the omnipresent network of satellites in the vacuum of space orchestrated by artificial intelligence, there is no radical rhetoric, no iron-fisted dictatorship, and no army of scrapped drones capable of guaranteeing victory. In military chess, invisibility is the greatest tactical advantage an army can have. But in the free market for your business, invisibility is a death sentence. Today, the most ruthless currency in the world isn't the dollar, it's people's attention. And for you, entrepreneur or top professional, what hurts the most is knowing that you're the best at what you do, but you remain hidden. You built a formidable business, but the market ignores your existence. While mediocrity goes viral, your excellence stays in the shadows. Well, 15 years ago, I understood the brutality of this rule. Building undeniable authority requires dense content and lethal distribution. Today, with 50 million views every month here on social media, our method is killing it. It's been proven. The game now is about media, and your identity can't be outsourced. The owner needs to step onto the front lines to force the algorithm to work in their favor. All companies and professionals who became media companies at least tripled their reach and their monetization. And if you want to break out of this obscurity, the time is now. On August 16th, I will hold a fully in-person intensive here in my studio, where I will show you in practice, without theories, without whining, without wasting time, how I managed to achieve, how I reached you, how I broke through the bubble. And here I am, look, on your phone, on your TV, on your computer. That's right, my friends. Well, QR code on the screen, secure link in the description and in the first pinned comment. But I'm being straightforward. There are only 2 spots left. Yes, 2 spots, and when the last one is filled, the steel door closes and I don't know when we'll have a new opportunity. Click now. Secure your spot and come face to face with Shimon Oliveira. Guys, and speaking of the war between Ukraine and Russia, a new series has premiered. Look, I want to recommend it to you because it shows the drone swarms, it shows the trench warfare that's being fought there on the battlefield in Ukraine. It's a tough series, no whining, no woke culture, so I want to recommend it to you on our channel with tips on series and movies. Go check it out. The link is in the description, in the pinned comment, and in the card that will appear on your screen. It's surreal. And if you want to sponsor this episode so it reaches more people, you can send a super thanks or a super like. There you go, just use the tools that are available to you. And if you want to join our elite team of analysts who get the information before everyone else, well, there are already more than 3,000 of us who fund what we bring to you today. Link in the description, in the pinned comment. Come join our intelligence bunker. Now subscribe to the channel, turn on the notification bell, and leave a like on the video because it takes a lot of work to make. My friends, now shield your mind. I am Shimon Oliveira and I'll see you in the next video. See you then.